Hello, karate friends and yoga friends. This video is specifically for karate people, but I hope that it'll be of interest to yoga practitioners, of course, specifically Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga practitioners. I just wanted to help Karateka understanding the importance and the relevance of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga for our martial arts work. I suggested to you in a previous video that the point of martial arts work is to solve the conundrum, the Zen koan of right action. How do we do right action? How can we do the right thing in a moment? And so the martial arts thing looks at kind of a worst case scenario. How can you do the right thing when you're under attack? When you're being surprised, the evil person jumps out of the bushes and attacks you. How do you do the right thing? Because maybe it turns out, well, it's not an evil person. You recognize this person; it's actually a friend of yours, and they're actively trying to harm you. What's the right thing? So, I suggested that there is a kind of a solution, or at least a goal, that solves that conundrum, coming out of Zen Buddhism. And their idea is that we need to impact or reflect reality like a mirror. So what does that even mean exactly? It's a lovely image, the sense that it's not so much about us processing stuff and making decisions as the circumstances themselves producing the right response, and it's just kind of bouncing off of us because we're the one that happened to be there. It's an effect or an experience that many of us are familiar with when we get into the improvisatory aspects of martial practice, particularly with a partner. So say you're doing sparring or sticky hands, you feel an opening even as it's happening. So you have your hands on somebody and you feel that there's a weakness, there's a potential where there's a hole there, and you can take advantage of that in some way. And if you feel that and then think, oh, there's an opening, now it's gone. So the action, the response, and the awareness have to be a single entity, that you feel that opening and you're taking advantage of it. The opening itself kind of draws you in. So that kind of experience, which is very small and very specific, is suggested that that's how we can get to be, in general, in interacting with the world. Now, Zen Buddhism is sometimes considered to be a special thing that it's not even really part of Buddhism or something, and it's this kind of pure thing. And I don't think that's true. I don't think there's any way to understand Zen or any other aspect of Buddhism without understanding Buddhism as some kind of a whole. And I'm certainly no expert, but because of where that's coming from, where that insightable, reflecting experience as a mirror, because of where that comes from, we can understand that it's not just an inanimate mirror. It's not some kind of it's not suggesting that we become emotionless and have no sense of what's happening, and stuff just bounces off us as if you're a piece of plate glass with a black background, so it just reflects. That's not what that mirror is a mirror of ultimate compassion, of love, if you want to call it that, however you want to express that. So if we can be in a state where we're constantly expressing love or compassion, and it can't be personal. It can't be, oh, I really like you, because that's insufficient. It has to be, we sense that we can free ourselves up to be a conduit for some sort of sense of universal compassion. And if that's how we're impacting the world in every moment, then when something positive comes up, that's how we respond to it. And if something negative comes up, that's how we respond to it. That's how we respond to the world in every moment. And so then there's no difference. And if somebody comes at us with a machete or something, the best thing we can do in that moment is to disarm them and maybe knock them out. Maybe that's going to be the best thing that we can do, and that'll be apparent in the moment without any kind of, having to consider it and think it over. Why would I have to rethink my fundamental first response? Well, only if it's not trustworthy, right? If I can't trust myself to respond well, then there must be some fear there. There must be some lack of compassion that's moving me towards, needing to edit my natural responses. So that's the I don't, and by the way, I don't pretend that that's where I've come to. I'm not there. I had an experience just recently where a friend kind of invaded actually our social distancing that we're doing, our physical distancing, and just came right into the house. And I just didn't have the wherewithal to say no to that person, because I like them and care about them. And so, like, in my conflicted mind, there's a, if I'm saying a no to somebody, then I'm no longer in a place of compassion and love, and that's not the solution. That's wrong, and that's, so I'm revealing to you, this is where I'm working. This is my process. So how does the yoga fit into this? The Yoga Sutras, the Patanjali Sutras, are the core source document on yoga practice, and it's nice that we have some kind of literature. And they're sutras, which means they're memorizable little sayings, and it's meant to be memorized, the whole thing. And the first sutra, the very first one, says that yoga is the stilling and the fluctuations of the mind. So in order to become a mirror of compassion, we need to steady down, calm down all this agitation, all this moving around. One yogi compared our minds to drunken monkeys, a whole bunch of drunken monkeys. So then there's a method for doing that, and I want to speak literally about how to practice on the mat, and the directions are built right in. And we know there's something called the Tristanam, which Jen has talked about. And if you go on the yoga part of our YouTube channel, she speaks extensively on each of those areas. In more than one place, but there's one place under the Tristanam. You can look it up. She talks about what that is, and I'm gonna touch on that here too in a second video. I want to do the background first before we get into the literal physical practice. So we have to start with the actual name. It's called Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. And each of those words has a specific meaning. And like the sutras, it's compacted. There's a lot of information packed into those words. So Ashtanga means 8 limbs. Ashtau is 8, and Anga is limb. So Ashtanga is 8 limbs, 8 parts, 8, supports, if you like. And the asana, the physical stuff, that's the third limb. That's the third limb. So what are the first two? The first one is called yamas, and they're ideas about ethical practices, is maybe how it's described. And it begins with number 1, there's 5 of them, and number 1 is ahimsa, non-harming. So that's suggesting if you want to still the fluctuations of your own mind, if you want to calm down so that you can move towards, if not achieve, but at least move towards some sort of mastery, some sort of compassion, some sort of moving beyond a state of internal conflict, a state of congruity between your internal activity and your external activity, then we need to do no harm. Is that even possible? Well, can we do less harm? We may not achieve a perfect state of compassion or being like a mirror or a perfect state of internal external congruity, but any baby step in that direction is going to be tremendously powerful and tremendously positive, right? So that's what it's about. We have these ideas of these sort of ultimate goals, but whether we get there or not, I think is totally beside the point. And it's hard to assess. I mean, is somebody there, do you know anybody who proclaims to be that person? I've only met a few of them, And in some cases I go, yeah, as far as I can tell, but I can't judge that. You'd have to be there yourself in order to assess if another person is there also, I think. And there's been other cases of people that I've seen that have claimed to have that kind of achievement and really, to me, demonstrated pretty clearly that they don't. So, I mean, buyer beware, I suppose. So, ahimsa, non-harming. And then there's categories of non-harming, like how do you go about that? Sometimes these are taken as precepts or rules, and that's dangerous. They're directions and they're recommendations. So non-harming doesn't mean, be careful, don't kill a mosquito that's biting you, or, these kind of silly things. There's bigger fish to fry, and maybe if you've gotten to a place of non-harming where your state of non-harming is so complete and so pure that now you've got time to start thinking about mosquitoes, go ahead, Or other kinds of conundrums. Well, what if I had this situation where if I said this, it would be true, but it might harm another person, and all these kind of, ethical conundrums. This is not what our life is made of. As a rule, right? Like, it's not that hard. Don't get lost in angels dancing on the head of a pin calculations. Just work with non-harming. So I'm going to end this video here. It's long enough, and I'll carry on with the part 2. Thanks, everyone.